Welcome back to another edition of the Balas and Skene Show. This is the Wolverine.com Michigan football podcast. With me, I'm Chris Balas. With me, Doug Skene, Michigan's five-time Big Ten champion, all Big Ten dude. Let's go down the credentials. Played for Bill Parcells, started for the New England Patriots. Drew Bledsoe was his quarterback. This guy knows a little bit something about football, a lot about offensive line. Skene, let's first talk, though, about why you skimped out on the Michigan-Washington game to go down and see Texas A&M and Arkansas when I had a credential for you in the press box. Where are your loyalties these days? And can you explain, as Les Miles would say, to the people out there, what the hell you were thinking?
Well, Dallas, I did go to high school in Texas.
All right. A&M recruited you, right?
A&M recruited me hard. Yeah. Yep. And the Longhorns did too. And if I were not going to end up in the Big Ten, I would have gone to Texas A&M.
Wow.
But fortunately for me, things worked out the way they did. But anyways, a couple of my high school buddies are Texas A&M grads, and one of my other high school buddies is a really, really big Arkansas Razorback fan. So we decided to do a road trip, a little high school reunion road trip, and go to Fayetteville, Arkansas to see the Aggies take on the Razorbacks. And wow, Balas. SEC football, and it was defense optional in the SEC on Saturday.
That was crazy. What a game. I was thinking the whole time, Skene is there watching this live. That was unbelievable.
I've never seen anything like it. There was over 1,000 yards of total offense between both teams, and just up and down the field, and did not expect that. And my one buddy Eric there was beside himself with his Aggie defense, struggling to just stop the wind. I guess they couldn't even do that very well on Saturday there. I think each team only punted once.
But a win is a win. And what are they, fourth in the country, third, something?
Yeah, they're third now.
Yeah.
They're third now. You know, it's interesting from a Michigan perspective and watching Big Ten, and specifically Michigan, watching those two teams play. Both of those teams have tall, athletic, fast, very capable quarterbacks, and they look like a year 2 or 3 version of what we think Mr. Underwood's going to look like in a couple of years. And so it's just kind of what college football has become, and it's what Michigan, I think, will continue to evolve into. But those two guys, the Arkansas quarterback, outstanding. A little bit taller than Bryce. I think he's almost 6'5", real tall kid. But the Texas A&M quarterback, still tall, fast, on the run, can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It was an awesome game.
I will say this, Bryce Underwood, fast approaching that territory, and he had one hell of a game on Saturday. You were able, I assume, to go back and watch the Michigan game?
No, well, so there was a massive storm front that came through the South here this weekend. And so
here come the excuses.
No, it worked out perfectly. God had a plan, Balas.
Okay.
So the game, the Arkansas game, got pushed back 2 hours. It was a 2:30 local start. It got pushed back to 4:30. So we could watch the whole Michigan game before we even left to go to the Arkansas game. So I watched the whole thing.
All right.
And so I saw all I needed to see. And obviously it was a good win. I was wrong in my prediction. Happy to be wrong.
Yep.
Boy,
if I had a nickel for every time I heard that from you.
And it's been a while, but contrary to what you think and what other people think, I don't root for Michigan to lose.
No, I don't think that at all. In fact, I defend you on the message boards from the crazy pitchfork and torch crowd that are coming after you. And it's so weird how Skene always predicts against blah, 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 blah. You know what? We go with what we feel. And after last week's game, a lot of people, every Michigan fan that I talked to I asked them how they feel, and they're nervous, right? You got DeMond Williams Jr., you got a defense that looked like it didn't know how to defend a screen pass or a mobile quarterback. But you got to give Michigan's defense credit. There's a couple things there that still need to be shored up. They're still getting plays in late at times and weren't set. There was a 2nd and 19 that they looked like, okay, they weren't set, and you've got to be ready on a play like that. And it led to a touchdown late in the second half. So, but more than anything, 289 yards or whatever it was against this offense, maybe 270. This was a really good job, really good bounce back game for the defense.
Yeah. So Balas, it was shock, right? What we saw 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago now in Southern California, it looked like the Oklahoma game 2.0. And so Washington had a lot of momentum coming into that game, had done very well. And that quarterback, although he's not nearly as tall as the other, feature quarterbacks across the country, including the 2 I watched this weekend and the one that resides in Ann Arbor, that kid's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was pleasant to see Michigan's defense buckle down and look like a defense again, as opposed to what we saw the week before. So credit to them. We got pressure getting in that backfield and causing some problems for that guy. And Williams there, boy, he's good,
Yeah.
Balas. He's a really nice quarterback. So yeah, that was a pleasant sight.
And keep him in the pocket like they did. They let him out of there maybe once. Negative rushing yardage, okay, for a guy like that, it means that you are doing everything right in terms of gap integrity. I mean, in terms of rush lanes, right? Staying in your rush lanes and not letting him out of there, collapsing the pocket from the outside in so that he can't get outside of you, and making a 5'11" kid throw the ball. Now, he had some decent throws, and there were a couple misplays on deep balls. There is not. It's Lloyd Carr always used to say this, and people were bitching up a storm on the message board. Wink, you stink. And I'm looking in the fourth quarter, they've got 200 and something yards of offense and 7 points, and I'm like, what the hell do you people want? It's not a game of perfect, as Lloyd Carr used to say. But overall, really good job of the defense. I do want to talk about the offense because even though it was 7-7 late in the third game, I really liked the game that Chip Lindsey called, and guys weren't executing as well, but there was not much predictability there. There were guys dropping some balls that, let's be honest, they had 2 or 3 passes that were dropped and a missed field goal, or that's a 21-7 game in the third quarter, and Michigan's winning pretty comfortably. But the big thing, losing Evan Link at left tackle, I wanted to ask you about watching Blake Frazier come in there because of you, I'm always watching the boring part of the game, right, on the inside, and there's Blake Frazier, and I saw him get bull rushed a couple times, but I saw a kid who's still maybe a little undersized and not as strong as he's going to be in a year or two really hold his own in there.
Balas, fully capable.
Yeah.
Frank came in there, did a nice job. That's a tough spot, right? Really tough spot. So first of all, it's horrible when you see these guys get hurt, and I certainly feel that way for Michigan players, but for all, I mean, high school, college, pro, I just having gone through it myself. When you're down there on the field and you I don't know, just having been there. When you see a guy go down to the field, and specifically a lineman, it automatically conjures up memories of my own experience. But I always look for he's down, but what is he doing? Is he just kind of laying there? Is he writhing in pain? Like something's bad? And I could tell right away with Link. I'm like, oh God. And of course, yeah, it was bad. And I just feel my heart sinks for these guys. I wish him the best. It's going to be a tough road back. I'm absolutely sure he'll make it back, but I just hate to see that. But then immediately think, okay, next guy up, right? Next man's got to go, and that's the way it was for over all these years, and still is in football. And Frazier jumps in there. You could, the camera focuses in, and they're talking about it on television. Oh, who's coming in? That is a difficult spot to come off the bench. You haven't been playing. You're not warmed up. You haven't been moving. You're just watching, right? And I know he comes in situational packages, but he stepped in there, and I thought he did a very nice job at left tackle. No, he wasn't perfect, but his base, his pass sets, the way he moves, I'm like, this guy's pretty doggone good. I didn't think there was a significant drop off at all in the production at left tackle. Yeah, he got bull rushed on his head one time, yeah, and gave up a touch on a quarterback. But I thought Frazier did a nice job coming in there, and I expect that he will continue to do that as our left tackle.
Yep, and about 5 times the belt buckle was in somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because our young guys, I think Clayton Safey said the same thing. He's like, yeah, you look for that. And now that you listen to Skene, and I look for it across football now, right? Guys who really want to be nasty, who have that nasty streak, and he seems to have it. And there's something about those guys whose dads played for Michigan, and I've said this many times, there just seems to be a little extra in their motivation because they get it. They understand what it meant to their dads. So that's what it meant to them growing up. And they want to really bring on that legacy, keep that legacy going. So it was fun to watch. So overall, your thoughts on the offensive line? I really liked the way that Jordan Marshall ran. It seemed like he was a little bit looser, and knowing that he's the guy now, this is the second time when he knew that he was going to be the guy, Alabama being the first game. I think it brings out his best, right? When you're not thinking, hey, I have to measure up to that guy in front of me. I just got to do my job and carry this team. First of all, your thoughts on how he ran, and then second of all, the offensive line overall.
Well, I thought he ran hard, just as you said, and I think there is a change, Balas. When you go into a game and you know you're not starting, you know you're not the feature guy, and I certainly was there, and we just talked a little bit about it with Frazier, coming in as the non-starter guy. There's a good chance you're going to play, but you're not going to be the down in, down out guy. as opposed to you're the starter. There is a difference in your mental preparation for the game and what your expectations are going to be. So I thought it reflected. I thought that Marshall's play reflected that, and the guy was up and down and running hard. And I guess it's the one feature about him. He's got a little bit of that grind and grit, Mike Hart, old school, dragging people, falling forward all the time, which is always fun as an offensive lineman to have a guy running like that. So that's a pleasant sight, and it reflects the depth of this roster that quite honestly wasn't there years ago. We just didn't have this kind of depth. So, and it also reflects the quality of the coaching that's going on in that running back room. And so we got 2 veteran coaches back there because Freddie Jackson's hanging around too. So we've got some good coaching going on in that room and some good execution. So hats off to Marshall. I thought he did a great job. And that offensive line overall, coming out of the USC performance, the arrow was pointing down in a red nature, right? So the trajectory was not good. And I thought we regressed mightily against USC. And all of a sudden now the arrow is green again. Now we're pointing back upward, heading toward the future, the rest of the season. And so you always look for the same stuff. Where is our running back being contacted? At the line of scrimmage, beyond the line of scrimmage? Are the lanes open that we're clearly trying to create? There were plenty of those. And so although it's never perfect up there, and I don't like our quarterback ever being touched, hit, or sacked, I thought it was a much better performance than obviously the week before. And that's what you hope to see as a coach, that you've gotten off of the bad track and onto the good one.
Yeah. And of course, the level of competition is a little different. Washington was not USC, which isn't great anyway, to be honest with you. And who knows what would have happened had Justice Haynes stayed healthy in that USC game. But that offensive line really struggled against an athletic front against USC that other teams have controlled, like Notre Dame on Saturday night. So really the standard is how you do against those really good teams. So you damn well better be solid to good against these lesser teams, which they were not last year. So that is a step up, and we're going to have to see it against Michigan State as well.
Well, we're going to have to. So if you compare the Washington front to the USC front, we could say USC's front probably more athletic, a little bit better. I think the Washington front reminded me a lot of the Nebraska front.
Yeah,
it's just comparable as to who we've played, maybe what it's looked like, and so they can't control who we're lining up against. You just got to control where your hips and your shoulders are, how you're coming out of your stance, where your hands are, and all those things. And so again, coming into this week against Michigan State, this was a good step. This was a good step as to what this team is trying to do, which is run this table to that matchup at the end of the regular season here to see what can happen. It was a critical step because Balas, had that game gone sideways, like obviously I thought it was going to in my staff pick, we would be having a whole different discussion here, and it would be panic and the sky would be falling and wondering about the future of Michigan football. So that's been delayed. So
hopefully, definitely.
It's hard to, so I love going to that NCAA stat website and looking at team stats and looking where we rank and everything else, and kind of reflect that in my staff picks. And remember going into that game, Washington offensively, back to the performance of our defense, Washington offensively had a really nice statistical team.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I think we were beating on in offense was our rushing attack, I think, but they had a pretty good rush defense.
Yeah.
So statistically. And so the performance that we had was really good. It was pleasant. So now here we go. Next step is taking care of Sparty. We'll talk about that in a second here, but all indicators right now are okay. We're back on the right track. Here we go.
And the defense, a couple of huge turnovers. Cole Sullivan changed that game with a huge pick. Jimmy Rolder with another one. It's funny. It was Jair Hill early on that had a chance with a pick six that he drops, and it was the linebackers making the 2 huge plays. Really, 2 of the 3 biggest plays of the game, I thought. And Deacon Tonelli's catch across the middle from Bryce Underwood off his back foot was probably the 3rd. But regardless, a really good all-around performance. You talk about stats, and I was looking at Washington's stats against Ohio State, right? Because that's how you want to match up. If you want to match up, you want to see how you're matching up. look at, for example, what Ohio State's defense did to them compared to Michigan's. It was extremely similar, Skene. There were like 5 or 6 big plays. Other than that, you really shut them down. And Ohio State's probably the best defensive football team I've seen in the country this year. So great bounce back game for Wink Martindale, too. I was really pleased with that. So Andrew Marsh, I think, is a star in the making here. This kid at receiver, this true freshman. Wow. You now to have 2 options there, and you didn't have your 2 starting tight ends either, Skene. The passing game looks like it's really starting to get in sync. And it would have been 25 of 27 for Underwood had you not had the drops, which are still driving me nuts. There are times it's going to take maybe a little bit off the ball, but we're watching this kid grow up in front of our eyes.
Yeah, there's an evolution there that's exciting to watch, Balas. And so my buddies and I were watching, before we went to the Arkansas game there. That was the comment out of my buddies. They're sort of objectionable, total, non-interested Michigan fans. So that was the comment. Was this young quarterback?
Did you mean objective or objectionable? Because
I'm sorry, objective. Wrong.
They're not showering and they're showing up and they're looking like Yeti or something
wrong
like
word.
Okay, all right, no problem.
But
they're objective.
So that was because both of these guys, one Arkansas fan, one Texas A&M fan, they know what they have in their quarterback, so they're looking at Underwood, and of course they both are very impressed. But that was the one thing: he's got to learn to take the proper RPM and put it on or off of that football. But obviously, it's a luxury position to have a kid like him, and to say, okay, can you take a little bit off, as opposed to, hey, can you put a little bit on that thing and laser that thing in here? But a lot of guys can't do that. Well, he can. Right. Yeah. So you can always dial it down a little bit with a guy who's a little too aggressive or a little too strong. It's a position of strength to say, hey, you're too good at this. Can you just dial it back a little bit? And that's that mid 5, 10, 15-yard route stuff, some of the flare routes out of the backfield. Yeah, he could take a little bit off for those passes, and he will as time comes on. But when your adrenaline is running out there and you're trying to get into that end zone, it's easy to flip that ball and throw the thing. So those guys, the flip side of that battle is you got to catch the ball. I don't care if it's coming in like a laser or not. Get on the jugs machine before practice and practice 12-yard lasers into your gut like this kid throws at times until he figures it out. But so, again, the evolution of this young man is going to be awesome to watch, to see what he can do in the future. And then more importantly, sometimes I think, as our offensive line gets better and the offense figures this new offensive coordinator out and we get more comfortable in how to do things, I just wish maybe you could find out here, Balas, in the coming days, can we audible at the line of scrimmage? Can we give this quarterback the ability to go to the line and make some adjustments himself to find the right fit? Maybe we're not there. Maybe we're not there because he's not grown enough into this offense, but it doesn't seem like we really have too many options up there at times, because we still will have a player or 2 per game. It's like, man, why did we do that? That didn't seem like the right fit. And so I think that's another area for improvement, and hopefully we'll get there.
I will ask about that at today's press conference. As a matter of fact, I will do it tactfully. I will say, how close are you to the point where Bryce is experienced enough? It's all about how you ask the question, Skene. So
yeah, you don't want to be accusatory, and I'm sort of just curious, because when I watch college football, this is what, and it's not just Michigan. It was the 2 teams I watched Saturday night here in Arkansas. I just wonder when you're at the line of scrimmage, because we don't see cadences, right? We see guys come to the line, quarterback looks around, we do the clap thing, and then we look to the sideline, and we're waiting on the sideline to make a decision. And it just seems to me that we could go up there with at least 2 plays, maybe at least 4, and say, okay, I've got right, left, run options. And if I need to, I can bark out some kind of audible of some kind and switch it to a little pass because I see a little soft corner over here. It's simple, Balas. And the reason I say this with conviction is because you can teach high school kids are doing this, right? But it's a comfort level with your offensive line, your wide receivers, your backs. Everybody's got to be on the same page, and it's not that hard to do. So yeah. This is not an accusatory thing. It's just more like, hey, this is a weapon. And where are we in our ability to use these kinds of options offensively to make defenses look even worse?
Yep. And speaking of weapons, one less with the way that Dominic Zvada's kicking. He's got to get his mojo back here because in some big games, they are going to need him. Kickers, it is what it is, right? What can you say? It's like we ask JB Brown, the special teams coach, we ask Sharon Moore, what do you say to the guy? And they're like, what do you say to the guy? This guy is, it is what it is. Sometimes you have bad days on the golf course, right? And most of the time you could be a great golfer, but everybody has his day. So hopefully he'll get it back. I'm not really all that concerned about it. You?
Balas,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought the golf reference because his kick reminded me of, you watch some of the best golfers in the world and they're trying to hit a draw, the one that he missed, right? They try to hit a draw, and sometimes the best golfers know they'll overdraw it, right? And miss the pin left or miss the green left, and they're so upset. It's like the same body language. You watch the pro golfers, they're looking at the ball, and then their shoulders go down, their head goes down. It's the same thing for him, right? And that should have been an easy, 8-iron, not even an 8-iron for him, a pitching wedge with that kick. He's got all kinds of power. It's nothing Sharon can do or the special teams staff can do. Sabata's just got to get it out of there and just, get that foot through there with the same, angle and foot speed that the best golfers in the world would with their wedge. And you just got to fix it and get out there and be all right with it. And I expect that he will.
Yep.
So,
it is what it is. Yep.
It is what it is. It's disappointing because we all know how good he is, and that stuff should be automatic. So, boy, you get in the head of the kicker, and we know a kicker that's watching right now this podcast. So you get in the head of the kicker, look out. You never know which way they're going to go. Sometimes you just got to grab those guys and take them with you, the offensive line, and go get a cheesesteak sandwich and calm them down.
And Mr. Spots, and you said kickers. You're talking about a punter. Kickers are people. I'm not so sure about punters. So.
Wait a minute. Our punters are below kickers? Is that what you're saying?
100%, especially if they have mullets. But anyway, let's talk about Michigan State here. One more thing. Let's talk about short yardage because there were a few times in short yardage that Michigan lined up. What went wrong? Were they just not getting low enough in some of these situations, 4th and 1?
It's interesting, Balas, because there was Arkansas had a 1st and goal from the 5 twice in their game against Texas A&M and failed to score. And I said to my buddies, it is a different game on short yardage and goal line. The football game changes entirely. And it's a matter of rooting guys out between the tackles. You got to be lower. You got to have better footwork. You better have your foot firmly in the ground. Your feet can't slip, which means the way you're pounding your feet in the ground matters. And so it's just a matter of execution and how much you're practicing that stuff. I think college football players are at a disadvantage now because they don't practice as much as we used to be able to. Not allowed to hit as much, and you're not allowed to go gangbusters full speed one-on-one against your defense. So you don't get to rep it as much. So you get into a game and you just don't have the reps. So the only thing I suppose you can do really is watch that film and dedicate some time in that stuff. But it's not complicated, Balas. The only thing I would tell you, Frazier talking about his performance there. It was the south end zone. Michigan was going in, and they stuffed us early in that game. Frazier fell off his block, and his guy was the guy that stopped that ball there in that 4th down. And you got to keep your feet apart, right? So as an offensive lineman, when your feet come together, you lose balance, and a defensive lineman goes to throw you. You can be tossed easily, no matter how big and strong you are. And it's just simple physics, right? So you lose your feet, you lose the block, all of a sudden we got to turn the ball over. So it's just a matter of the fundamentals, Balas. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and they'll get back to that. There was a 4th and 1 where they called a pass play, Samaj Morgan. I didn't like the intended receiver. I liked the call. We saw it with Colston Loveland, I think, against Ohio State a couple of years ago when they ran that, and it was there. Would have been at least a 5-yard gain, would have been a 1st down. You just have to execute. That's what it comes down to. So I don't fault them for that. This is not Blake Corum, right? Where, every time on 4th and 2, 3rd and 2, you're going to get a 1st down, right? With that offensive line. So sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit more, they have to show a little more variety, I guess, in the play calling. But regardless, let's move on here. Speaking of objectionable, it's Michigan State week. So we've got the Spartans in East Lansing. I watched that Michigan State game. I thought they played harder against Indiana. Against UCLA, it looked like they were going through the motions and didn't care if they were there. They played with a little bit more pride against the Hoosiers and made a game of it for like a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half. And I watch them and I think, okay, when they play hard, they might be able to give you, if you don't play your A game, this could be a football game. I look at Michigan and talent-wise and Michigan State. This is a mismatch on paper, but tell us again why, when you get into that game, it is really more of a, it's usually closer, a lot closer than it should be at times.
There is no more emotional game on the schedule for the Spartans than this one, Balas. And I think you're absolutely right. The effort that the Spartans gave against UCLA, I'm guessing, had to do with a little bit of the, let's just paraphrase it and say, oh, it's just UCLA and we're at home. And they didn't have the edge in that game and they got ran off the field and embarrassed. When you go down to Indiana and you're playing one of the top teams in the country, of course you're going to bring your best effort, right? And Indiana is just flat out really awesome football team right now. So a little more spirited effort out of Michigan State was not surprising to me or you or anybody else. In this game against us, that will be even more. This is it, right? This is the super red hot red letter game that's on their schedule every year. Michigan State measures the success of their program every year and how they perform in this game, a lot like we do against Ohio State. And that's okay. This absolutely is a rivalry game. It's for us, it's different than the Ohio State rivalry, but it is absolutely a red letter rivalry game. And if you don't come into this game with your emotions on high and yet emotional control when you take the field, this can get away from you. I've played in these games. I've watched Michigan over years, as you have. You have to play this game with a rage. And you better match the violence in this game. I don't care how good or bad Michigan State is. This is a dangerous game for Michigan. And yeah, there probably is a talent, difference, and you line up the position by position. Over the years, we've seen that doesn't seem to matter at times because crazy things seem to happen in this game, especially up there, but not exclusively. And so this game always makes me nervous. And this year's setup is the same, right? Expectations are low. People are talking about, are they going to make a coaching change in East Lansing? And those guys are up there playing for their school and their pride at this point, and it's not going all that well. And so there's a lot of questions about the future of Michigan State football, and I get that. That's fair. But for anybody who thinks that they're going to roll out there and just roll over and not be very good, you're crazy, man, because the Spartans are going to come, and they always do in this game.
With the exception of 2 years ago when Michigan went up there and just broke their spirit. And even then, they didn't run the ball. Michigan didn't run the ball on them. It was lots of third.
Yeah, that was, so okay. And you're right. That was a blowout. And we've seen a couple of those. But Michigan had it, that was a once in a lifetime. Maybe that was the best team Michigan's ever had went up there and did that.
Yep.
No disrespect to the current Wolverines. This is not the best Michigan team. This is not the 2023 Michigan Wolverines. They better be ready to play, is what I'm saying. They better be ready to play.
And I will say I do like the fact that Chip Lindsey isn't scared to use all of his weapons, and we've seen that. I like his unpredictable play calling. This is the kind of offense that is going to give Michigan State fits, I believe, if they execute. If they catch passes, again, still 3 or 4 passes dropped. That game could have been a laugher on Saturday had these guys caught their balls that were thrown to them. So we'll see what happens. But this is really, a critical game for Sharon Moore. We talked about it, the fork in the road game, and everybody's now, okay, sigh of relief. We got past it. Now we're going to be 9-2 going against Ohio State for.
Wait. Who said that?
The fan base is like, hey, okay, we got past the tough one. And there is something to say, you look at the schedule and you're like, okay, this was the last really tough game on the schedule. No, you still got to go to Maryland. This team cannot overlook anybody is what I'm telling you. Northwestern is playing better football too, Skene.
Yeah, there's no. Again, this is not the 2023 Wolverines with a stacked NFL roster playing in the maize and blue uniforms. Every week is a focused grind. If I'm Sharon, every week is a focused grind. I don't care what that schedule says. And the names that are on that schedule historically have some connotations of bad teams. I would not fall for that trap. And if I was a coaching staff at Michigan, I'm sure he's going to do it, right?
Yep.
The pedal will be down every week. So there's no guarantees we're going to run the table to the Buckeyes. And so it starts this week against the emotional game of Michigan State. And beyond that, you already said, Northwestern, and Purdue and the Maryland quarterback. Anybody that's not watched him play, watch that kid play. He's a playmaker. He's dangerous.
And a game
So,
before Ohio State too.
yeah, and it's when's the last time we played Maryland the week before Ohio State and just rolled through easily?
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
Once or twice, but not. I mean, it seems to happen all the time that they send them out there, so it's kind of crazy. But regardless, this is the one this week. Get by this one, and then you got Purdue, which better be a laugher at home. But this is a game you have to win this Saturday if you're Sharon Moore, if you want to maintain the goodwill, right? Because again, you look at the USC game, the Oklahoma game that were non-competitive, frankly, and that means you damn well better beat Washington at home, and you damn well better beat Michigan State on the road. So finally, speaking of objectionable, I've gained 6 bad pounds. You seem to be going in the opposite direction. Did you get a breast reduction or something? What's going on here? You look
dude, I was in Arkansas all weekend. What do you think I've been eating down here?
So, no, you look good. I said you look better.
Yeah, I know that. I don't feel good. So it's tailgate food and fried food and Southern food, which is all, by the way, awesome. Yes. That was the game experience is obviously awesome and great. Funny story. So we're in the stadium there, and there's a gentleman in front of me 2 rows up, and his family's there, and he's having fun. He's got the Arkansas gear on, and I wore my Michigan hat, my Block M, hat, that the old classic one there. And the guy turns to me, he goes, "Hey, did you play at Michigan?" I said, yeah, I did. He goes, "Oh, dude," and he comes up and sits down in front of me. Tank Adams from the 1992-1993 Purdue football team says, "Dude, we played against each other." And he starts rattling off memories from the Purdue at Michigan game from the early 90s. It was our last year. And
unreal.
He started telling stories about, plays that he had in the game. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And his daughter was there. And so we started talking and having fun and comparing things. And it was just a great experience. So who would have thought that? But and I can't remember what we were talking about here at the story, but it was cool to run into him.
That is cool.
But no, the game day atmosphere and the SEC and the food, it was just a great atmosphere. The storm kind of, put a wet blanket on everything, but obviously, but no, the SEC atmosphere in Arkansas, and it's going through a tough spot right now with no coach, but it was pretty neat atmosphere right down in the South here, and to watch those.
At Arkansas?
Yeah, it was in Fayetteville. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's unbelievable. And Tank Adams sounds like a fictional character from a bad football movie. And here he is, 2 rows in front of you. And I was going to ask you if you got recognized and if you were signing autographs down there with the A&M fans. "Hey, I remember that recruiting loss when we lost you to Michigan back in 1986 or whatever it was." So that's
no, not that one. So yeah, no, those.
But you look good, man. No, my point was you look good before your binge this weekend. I mean, you look like you're getting back in shape. You're on a diet or something, so you're looking good, brother. So,
well, Balas, maybe just lay off the hot dogs up there in the press box.
I'm on a 3-day fast right now, and it's not hot dogs. It's even worse. It's everything you can possibly imagine, plus the tailgating, plus the Friday night beers out in California with Karsh, watching a Tigers game until 2 a.m. or whatever it is, right? And getting drink after drink after drink. It's football season. We'll get back to it afterwards. But Skene, I appreciate your time, and we will do this again on Sunday, hopefully talking about a Michigan victory over MSU. Your early thoughts on that one? You think Michigan pulls that one out?
Oh yeah, I do. I think Michigan understands where they're at in this season.
Mm-hmm.
What's coming here, and you can start to peek ahead of how they want this thing to finish. And quite honestly, Balas, I'm not even sure. We'll talk about it, but let's just say Michigan runs the table. Is that even going to be enough to get into this playoff? I'm not sure.
If they beat Ohio State, yes. But the crazy part is then maybe you're in a championship game that you might have to win to be in the playoff. It's weird how it's all set up, but regardless, you go 10-2 and you beat Ohio State. How are they going to keep you out if you beat the number 1 team in the country?
So, yeah, but how, we're, what are we, 25th right now in one of the
polls? Yeah, but at 10, I think 10 ranked teams lost this week.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are going to be playing each other. One last thing before I let you go. There were all kinds of rumblings about dissension in the building and finger pointing and guys yelling at each other and stuff like that in the week before. And what I said on our message board was, okay, this has happened forever, right? Coaches and players, and there's going to be guys butting heads. And the problem was back then you had newspapers, right? You didn't have an internet where somebody posts a rumor and everybody knows about it. So what happens in that building? Did you guys go through times like that where you guys were butting heads but at the end of the day, it really comes down to putting it behind you and preparing for the rest of the week?
Well, there was certainly tension, right? I would just say measures and amounts of tension when maybe the defense is not doing well, but the offense is, and then things flip, and then maybe your kicker's missing some stuff. And so tension can rise, but I don't recall anything being said to poke the bear, so to speak. But maybe a comment or two, but probably more specifically during practice. So when we're out in practice going against the defense, and if they're not playing well, we might say something to juice up the vibe in practice when we were trying to kill each other anyway.
Yeah.
And so, but outside those lines, no, we may have mentioned it, maybe if the offensive line were sitting around saying, man, our defense has really got to pick it up. But I don't ever recall saying something to a defensive teammate outside that practice field that would be, negative like that. So you hope that was not going on.
Right.
And you can remember now, Balas, you got 100 alpha males in one room. And
well, 99 and a mullet punter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Continue.
So the tensions are high all the time, and guys are, they're grinding, and we want to win. And so it's I guess what I'm saying is the motivation is for the right reasons inside the walls of Michigan football there. And so it doesn't concern me. It would be more outward. If it were a real problem, I think I would have noticed something watching this team play. I don't see that. I see a bunch of guys that still enjoy playing together and performing together. You can see it, how they interact on the sidelines. I think this is a healthy team. And so, it's just frustrations when you perform against you like we did against USC. It can rattle you a little bit, but they're going to be fine, I think.
Very good. Sounds great. Doug Skene, I appreciate your time. We'll do it again next week. Get back to work. Go sell some doorknobs, and we'll talk to you then.
Go Blue.